Mothers and fuckers, welcome on back to the booth. I am so excited. I didn't know what I was going to say and I panicked. I'm sorry. Welcome on back to the booth. We are so excited to give you guys our second playoffs update. We've got a couple of finals to talk about. We've got a couple of finals to. Oh, and it's Mother's Day too. Oh my God,
Yeah,
I'm so on
yeah.
fucking
No
point
way.
here.
Some of you said that without even thinking.
No, yeah, I did
Somehow
say that without thinking.
That's beautiful. That's beautiful.
Yeah. What was I saying? Oh, we have a couple of finals to talk about. A couple of finals have been played. A couple of finals are scheduled. One final is yet to be scheduled, but we know who it's going to be. We are super excited to chitty chat about all of these teams. As expected, it might be a bit of a shorter show because we have far fewer teams to talk about. But we're here. We want to get in that little dose of booth on this fine Sunday. Happy Mother's Day to all those mothers out there. If you need, nope. Never mind. Valentine, how you doing today?
I'm doing good. I'm scared of what you were going to say, but you didn't say it, so it's fine.
Yeah, ain't that some shit? Yeah, it's good to hear that you're doing well. Vega, how are you?
I'm doing really well. It's 70 degrees and sunny for the last 2 days in New York, so it's been amazing. And I'm inside, and we're gonna talk about League of Legends. So yeah, I'm doing great.
Yeah, I mean, it has been beautiful weather, and I have clocked an uncomfortable number of hours in Satisfactory over the past 48 hours. I've maybe spent a quarter of my life over the past 2 days playing Satisfactory, but my factory's coming along great. I'm utilizing hypertubes. I've got some tractors set up. I'm going to name all the different tractors because I think I anthropomorphize and I pack bond very easily. Um, Les Force, how are you doing on this fine Sunday afternoon?
I'm doing great. Slept the entire day away, so we're in it for the long haul tonight.
Yeah, I did get a little bit of bauxite. Thanks, Papa. But I haven't been able to use it yet. Yeah, I mean, you don't need to sleep. Honestly, I think it's a myth. So maybe just do like the vampire thing. Oh wait, no, they sleep during the day, so they do sleep. Anyway, I probably shouldn't talk about anything that I don't know about. Speaking of things I don't know about, let's head into our economy standings for the low budget LCS season 14. We have our finals matchup here ready to go. We've got 2% milk and a team name that I can't even read because that is so dang small. Just zoom in, people. So tell me a little bit about these two teams. Tell me a little bit about the journey that they took to get here, and what do we need to know?
Biggest thing is, unlike a lot of the other leagues, 1 and 2 seed in the finals. Both teams that were top rated coming out of the regular season have, I won't say stomped their way into the finals, but neither one has dropped a game. It is a collision course of 2 top seeds. It's about as hype as you could get for a matchup looking at the bracket, and both teams, I'm sure, are coming in extremely confident into this matchup.
Have these teams played each other in the regular season, or is this the first time that they'll actually be meeting together on the Rift?
I don't believe Waves.
Yeah.
Let me double check.
Yeah,
I'm pretty sure they haven't played now.
We'll consult our LBLCS
both-
historian, Valentine.
Yeah.
Well, regardless,
Wavies did lose some games.
so we've got these two teams. We've got a little bit of less information about them because they got the bye for the first round. So they just started out in these semis and they won 2 games fairly handily for both teams. And now we've got these teams up here. Why don't we take a little bit of time to talk about those semifinal matchups? We'll start on the left side and work our way over to the right. So we had 2% Milk versus the Colony. Vega, you might be able to speak a little bit more to that, given that that's part of your organization. Tell us
Yeah,
a little bit
Colony.
about that series, and a little bit about the opponent matchup in the Colony as well.
I think this is probably, I don't know. Obviously, 2% is a milk team, but I'm not heavily involved in their day to day. I'm more just like a fan from the outside, just a really passionate fan. But Colony was definitely one of the teams, especially when we did the preseason rankings, where I circled them as probably one of the most dangerous teams. Akampt and Luffy are a very dangerous support jungle combo. We've only Luffy's a title winner, right? I mean, and as a jungler, he's the kind of person, if you give an inch, he will absolutely, take a mile. If you're hanging around in lane low, and I think it spoke a lot to 2% strengths in this series of them being able to kind of weather the storm and make the smart play multiple times throughout the series. But it was 2-0 on the sheet does not reflect what, especially the game two, very back and forth, very much both teams landing punches on each other. But I think 2% will feel good to have escaped Colony and moved on to the finals, but Colony definitely did not limp into that matchup.
No, absolutely not. Luffy and Nakamta are two mainstays in the LBLCS. Luffy brings his own flavor of chaos to every match that he plays, especially the casual ones where you get an ARAM invite or something like that. You're basically good luck is basically the call that you're gonna get there. So absolutely not a team that should be slept on. And I remember us talking a little bit about the Colony, and they were also one of the teams that got a bye. So the higher seeds sort of winning out pretty handily throughout this bracket, if I'm sort of looking at it correctly, except for the Termites, who upset the Jarls. So that's sort of one side of the matchup. Tell me a little bit about the other side, Wavies versus Termites. This is the other finals opponent here in Wavies in Motion, and we also have the Tenacious Termites. So tell me about those little critters, and tell me about the Waves.
Well, taking a look at the matchup that they played, it looked like game one was a pretty decisive win. Jabe popping off on the Kale mid, Kryptonic on the Cassante top. But game two actually, like, and this wasn't streamed, so we didn't get a chance to like see it. I think it was Red Zone, so those that were there kind of got to see it. But this looks like the Termites were on top the entire game. Is kind of the way that I'm seeing it. They got 6 dragons, so that means that they got an Elder, they got a Baron, they had more towers, a lot more inhibs, but somehow in a 47-minute banger, it was probably just like one team fight went the way of Asol, Vise, Mbessa, and they're able to just end the game off that. So probably a very heartbreaking way to lose for the Termites. But yeah, Wavies, I mean, they've looked good all season, and these probably were the 2 top teams in economy all season. So it should be really exciting whenever that game gets scheduled. Not sure if it's officially on the books yet.
I think it might be. I think it might be for this coming Wednesday. And you guys can stay tuned for a little bit of economy finals content from Sammy. That's a little booth leak, if you will. But it's in the works. It's in the works. He's still cooking. I'll be sous chefing. So we'll see what happens with that content. So stay tuned for the content channel, because that's where we announce all these types of things. And Sammy, a dedicated econ connoisseur, if you will, in crafting and honing that content. I'm getting head shakes at me. It's fine. Valentine, can you tell us a little bit about this right-hand side of the matchup here with Wavies versus Termites? What do you know about these teams? How much exposure did you have to them in your duration and economy? Tell us what we need to know.
Well, I played all of the right side quarterfinals teams except for Wavies, but obviously the Termites came into this matchup searing hot. They ended the season on a 4 series win streak. Came into the playoffs, knocked down Cloud9 to 5, upset Jarls. So I think they were probably the hottest team coming into playoffs. Maybe just in terms of they had won a game every week for like the last 6 or so weeks, or longer, maybe 7.
Mm-hmm.
So you have to just give them the respect. They had to be given a certain amount of respect, and I think the way that Wavies was kind of just able to handle business is big time. And it kind of gives you an insight. Like these are, and I'll say the same to 2% Milk. These are 2 teams that are just kind of headed. Like they're kind of focused on the goal, right? They're focused on the championship. They're focused on beating the team in front of them, regardless of what's happened the last few weeks. So that'll be an interesting one because I feel like we're now seeing the unstoppable object versus unstoppable objects.
This unstoppable object versus unstoppable object kind of matchup comes up. We've got these 2 teams who are sort of undefeated through the brackets and really having a grand old time. So tell me, what are these 2 different flavors of unstoppable brackets? When we look at a team like Wavies versus when we look at a team like 2%, do they like to be unstoppable in the same way, or do they have sort of mismatched strengths that may end up for a sort of either or type of finals matchup?
Wavies, I did watch a little bit of the red zone of their series, and if I had to pick like kind of a differing strength from them, 2% is a very measured team in that they are very objective focused, right? Even if they lose fights and things like that, they seem to be a team that's constantly trading things. Like they're getting played somewhere, they're trading, dragon for if they're getting kills somewhere else, something like that. They're a team that likes to move around the map. And Wavy seems like a team that is willing to let you kind of have a little bit in the early game, but is very good late game coordinating team fights. So I do think it is going to be a little bit of strength on strength because you have an objective focused team and a team that likes the late game team fight. What are you fighting over in the late game? It's objectives. So I do think it will be a little bit of strength on strength there. It'll be interesting to kind of, obviously, I think the mid lane matchup is going to be super interesting to watch in this series because both mids have been very pop off players and kind of a spear for their teams. And I think both are confident in their abilities mid, so we might see a lot of scrapping in that lane.
Val, you sort of like tagged in there about the mid lane matchup. Can you tell us a little bit about what you're seeing from the ground floor there?
I think Zane is probably, obviously at this point in the tournament, is probably the best mid laner. There's a lot to love about what he'll bring to the table. I believe Gabe has played ADC for most of the season, or am I tripping? But has been playing mid for playoffs.
Yeah,
I
early
don't
in the
know if
season
that-
was playing AD. Yeah.
Yeah, early in the season was playing AD, is playing mid for playoffs. And I think that's a terrifying thing because Gabe was definitely, I think, probably the best performing ADC in economy. But now you're taking the best performing ADC in economy and putting them up against that is translated, has been a knockout mid laner so far, hasn't lost the game in mid lane, taking on the best mid laner throughout the season. So I'm curious on how they'll match up.
Okay. We've got War Leader in the chat saying, don't do this to Zane's ego. So not knowing anything, I'll just say, Zane, I don't know. I don't buy it. Maybe not that good. Hopefully that can sort of tamp the ego down a little bit.
I played Flex with him last night. He's a feeder. Yeah, absolutely griefed me last night. Don't worry about that guy.
That's what Flex is for, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. I blame you for this last force. I had to get him because you were busy.
Let's first, I'll both take the heat off and put the heat on you a little bit here. What do you see when you look at these two teams? When you look at these teams between 2% and Wavies, that you think is important to comment on as we look to that finals matchup in this coming week?
I mean, I think this is very much a non-answer, but I've been going through looking at like the results for both these teams, and there's not like when I think of like dogs that bark from commercial, like their game plan is Matt C gets ahead, wins us the game. But I look at Wavies and I look at 2% Milk, and there are games where their AD carries the one carrying them. There's games where the jungler's getting super ahead. There's games where the mid laner's popping off. Like both teams can win through everywhere, and so I think it's really just going to come down to what that draft prep is going to look like. Like, who are you going to look for the same win con as the enemy team? If you are you going to execute it better? Like there's no clear like beat this person and we win the game for either side, which means it should be a really fun finals. Of course, it will be best of 5, which makes it even more exciting.
Absolutely, those best of 5s can get really exciting, especially when one team goes up to match, or I guess series point, and then we start to see the pressure really mount. Best of 5s are an entirely different animal than best of 3s. I should know, I've lost so many of them.
Only 3.
Only 3, which is a lot of games to lose.
That's more than most people play in their lifetime.
Yeah.
9 to be precise, because have you actually won a finals game?
Not in LBLCS.
You've won a finals now, though, yeah.
I have won a finals, but outside LBLCS, it was like it's like I go to like she goes to a different school. You don't know her. That's the finals I won.
It's a Mickey Mouse trophy.
Yeah, it's a bit of a Mickey
like
Mouse
a bubble.
trophy. Yeah. So we'll see what happens there. Let's first we'll do predictions. Looking at these two teams, looking at the finals matchup in the best of 5 series, what do you think is going to be the final score and for whom?
I think it's gonna be 3-1 in favor of 2% milk.
Milk 3-1 over Wavies. Vega, how about you?
Well, I was gonna try and be different and things like that, but I tend to lean the 3-1, 2%. They drop one game all season. It's hard not to lean that way.
Mm-hmm.
All right, Valentine, are you
You know what
going
they
to?
say about undefeated teams?
I mean, true, true. We'll see what happens. All right, Valentine, will you shake it up and predict a different win, or will you just keep the same winner but go for a different score here?
I'll go. I'm gonna go 3-2 Wavies. I think it's gonna be. I think it's gonna be a bit of a screecher. I'm excited to see how both of these teams come out into the finals. I feel like that's a big thing where you kind of have to see how these teams acclimate immediately to kind of the increased pressure.
Mm-hmm.
And that's gonna be key. I've seen a lot of finals where I get past game one. I'm like, I think this is about to be a 3-0. And sometimes I get proven wrong, sometimes I don't.
Those are the two options, right?
Yeah. But sometimes you get past the game one, you're like, either this is going to be the closest 3 of all time, or we're going 5 games, and I'm not going to have, my heart rate's going to be through the roof. I feel bad for Vega because he's got a couple BO5s in the upcoming week.
Yeah, and especially after the most recent one, or the most
Bro.
recent
Yeah, that
BO3.
dude.
I'm ready
Yeah,
for
yeah.
anything now.
I
I'm
know.
Are you
I'm
sure?
already in,
That's
you
our
know.
that yeah, I know you're really asking for it. That's our teaser trailer for the financial content that we'll talk about in just a little bit here. So we've
Yeah,
got
but
we've got both Less Force and Vega taking Milk 3-1 over Wavies, and Valentine playing devil's advocate a little bit there with Wavies 3-2 over Milk in a 5-game banger. So, well, I mean, I'd be curious to see what folks in chat decide to predict for this series, but either way, we're really looking forward to it. I believe that's Wednesday, 8 p.m., so we'll see. I think there's efforts to mobilize streaming for the remaining playoff games as they come. Although, of course, the best of fives, harder to stream them later at night. I would know. We'll talk about that in executive in a little bit. Let's move on over to commercial here as we look to this bracket. This is the one where the finals haven't been decided. Is that correct?
yep.
So we still have finals yet to be figured out. So we still have 4 teams to talk about here. So
Well,
Well, one did
oh
get
right,
played last
One,
night.
yeah.
one did get played last night. So that standings sheet did not get updated, but I'll figure it out later. So why don't we talk about the right side then, since that's where the dust has settled, with Naughty question marks taking the series over Team Backflip. Valentine, I ended with you, so I'll start with you here. What did you make of this series? Taking a look at the results, taking a look at the score lines there. What do you think about when you're looking at this Naughty question marks team and what they were able to do against Team Backflip?
90 question mark has probably one of my favorite LBLCS players in Rin. And this was a bit of a topside takeover from the side of Naughty. And I mean, you always have to be ready for that. They've had games where Valve and Rikachu kind of turn it up, but I and Rin have always brought a lot of pressure and damage when they play the game. I think it's their first season together, but Rin obviously notoriously is probably I'd argue, had one of the most polarizing economy seasons en route to a season 10 championship. Don't quote me on that. I think it was 10 or 11. And then almost did it again in season 11. And what Rin does well is have just a champion ocean isn't enough. Champion galaxy.
Tell us a little bit about this Champion Galaxy. What makes you say that? What are you looking at when you're thinking about this Champion Galaxy?
So I think this season it's been maybe a little more controlled, where we're seeing a lot. I think it's a lot of Rumble, a lot of Gwen. We've seen some Ivern top, Galio,
Bazillion.
Zillion to
Zillion Hecarim.
Zillion to yeah, because obviously Ty's got a hell of a Hecarim. Lichbane Graves is Luffy mentioned Lichbane Graves, and Graves is for sure the truth. That is another Rin champ. Irelia if needed. And just about any top lane pick needed. To fit the scenario, one of the most dangerous R5 top laners I think the LBLCS has ever seen, especially in Econ and commercial. That being said, and and it's an amazing team surrounding. I think Valve, Green League, and Brikachu make up such a solid bot side. That really can't be forced. Brikachu will have pop-off games. Same goes for Valve, and I feel like it's all really facilitated through Ty, who has been consistently the guy this season. And has had plenty of great seasons for Naughty, either on the Dogs or obviously here on Question Mark. I think was on Nice Narwhals last season. Don't quote me on that. But this has been a big one. And I'm really curious on how they'll look because I think they took down probably one of the most consistent commercial teams of all time in Team Backflip. If you can beat Team Backflip, you definitely got a championship. They're kind of the gatekeepers, right? If you absolutely have to match that energy if you want to beat them, and I think Naughty Question Mark has.
Let's pay our respects to the Fallen here a little bit. Vega, what can you tell us about Team Backflip and their storied history in the LBLCS Commercial League?
I think, myself included, a lot of people who thought this was Backflip's maybe season to kind of do it. Some old demons no longer in their path here. I really was, hyped on them coming in. And I mean, not to sell them short, they're top 4 in the league. They made semifinals and were a game away from making finals. That's not anything to scoff at. That is a huge achievement in and of itself. I feel like it's just kind of similar demons where it feels like they get in this elimination game and, whether it's nerves, it happens to everybody. I experienced a lot of that this week myself. That whatever it is, it just feels like Backflip is kind of that barrier to finals of like, if you're going to be a team to win finals, you got to get through Backflip, but Backflip hasn't quite found that sauce to get themselves there. But yeah, I thought it was a really good series. I'm not going to lie, after I watched game 1 of that series, I thought, man, Backflip looks really good. And I thought that was going to be, but credit to what Val said earlier, after game 1, it can be dangerous to draw too many conclusions. And, Naughty kind of is a team that is really good at what they do. They have a clear strategy and they're really good at it. And if you're not willing to adapt and deal with that, they can beat you. And I think Backflip their adaptations in this series didn't quite get there. And yeah, unfortunate, but still a great season.
Yeah, I mean, looking at that series, and you look at the KDAs, those look like 3 very, very one-sided games. The first game very one-sided in the favor of Team Backflip, and then the 2 after that, completing the reverse sweep for Naughty Question Marks, but also looking fairly decisive in their favor as well. So, Les Force, I wonder if you could tell us a little bit about these, about teams that sort of look for that. The only thing that's coming to mind right now is like the TFT phrase, like first or eighth kind of play style, where it's like we're really going to like go like high risk, high reward. I know you tend to be on the opposite end of that sort of spectrum. So, what can you tell us about teams that play with this very batshit play style?
I mean, if it works, right? Like if you have in order for something like that to work, you have to have 5 people who want to play that way. And I actually played on a draft league team once, where 3 of the 5 people wanted to play it that way, and the other 2 people, myself and another player, just really weren't that crazy, and so it didn't really work because some of us wanted to not flip the game at 4 minutes, the other 3 would. But if you can get 5 people that are gonna play that kind of I call it like a crackhead style, it can for sure work. You put the gas pedal to the floor, you go full throttle. Other teams don't know how to handle it, but it just requires everyone to be on that page. Otherwise, you're desynced, and it's just not really gonna work.
Yeah, it's really the synchronization of the teammates in that regard, and being able to make sure that everybody's on the same page. When you're flipping a game at 4 minutes, if there's 1 or 2 people who aren't exactly thrilled about that, then that can really sort of throw off the momentum. It seems like, based off of what we're looking at with these score lines here, the Naughty Question Marks absolutely add they're on the same page. They want to play. They are going to show up. They're going to try to win, and that's a lot of fun. I want to make sure that we have some time to talk about Pill County Pirates versus the Rat Kingdom Lords for a bit. So why don't Valentine? Can you tell us a little bit about Pill County Pirates and their real underdog run through commercial?
Underdog.
Didn't we rate them pretty low?
We did, but they were the number 1 seed and only dropped a game. So I would be cautious.
We did. We
I
rated
wouldn't.
them.
Well, oh yeah, we rated them low, but I don't think anybody else considered them an underdog. And I think by the time playoffs came around, I don't think we considered them underdogs either.
Mm-hmm.
They've looked pretty amazing throughout the season. Let me go find who they dropped their 1 game to. But I think one of the more impressive things, obviously they have some of the higher ranked players in the league, but one of the things I feel like you have to respect, but yeah, they dropped 1 game to Evokers and that was it, who aren't here. And, this is a team that had some of the higher ranked players in the league, but came out and probably had one of the best 6-man rosters in all of LBLCS in terms of functionality, right? They have 6 players who they could easily play and get an excellent series out of with very little issue. To me, that is huge if you are a playoff contending team, because there's a certain amount of pressure, right? It's kind. I'd say it's kind of like it's very a meta thing where it's like, when you schedule this game, you want to have your best 5 players, and either one or side or the other becomes very, very focused on that. And when that day finally comes, obviously there's a lot of pressure to get it done, right? You don't want any mistakes to happen, especially out of game mistakes, right? Because if that stuff like that happens and you have to reschedule, you might not get to play that with your team. When you have a 6-man roster that's able to kind of put things together, that can be as good as any 5-man you put together. That to me is big time, because that takes just a bit of like pressure off the shoulder.
Yeah, it sounds like you're sort of talking about like Pill County Pirates being a bit more of like a spread even sort of team, and sort of able to rely on multiple different elements of that. So why don't we? So like that gives us a sort of like overview of Pill County Pirates. Les Force, can you tell us a little bit about the Rat Kingdom Lords so that we can get a little bit of a briefer on this team, as their semifinals matchup is, I believe, tonight at 8.
Yep.
So stay tuned for that. Maybe it'll get streamed, maybe not. I'm actually not sure. But Les Force, what do we need to know about the Rats in order to be well informed going into this matchup?
Yeah, I mean, I'm relatively pretty familiar with many of the players in this team. Obviously, I've teamed with Briar's Dog Dyson before. I played a lot with Maxim, Frank Nazar, also known as Chasey B. A lot of these guys played under TV last split. These guys have kind of it's been a weird season, right? Because they're at the top towards the standings, but they've made, like, I think it was like towards the end of the season, they swapped out their mid jungle. And they're kind of keeping the momentum going. I believe it's Laugh is the new starting mid laner, and they had a really good quarterfinals matchup. Briar's Dog Dice in the top lane. Dude is willing to play literally whatever for the team. He knows he's not the carry, so he'll play the Ornn, he'll play the Sedge, he'll play whatever, the signature Scion, if it's ever left up. And on the bot side, Maxim and Mana the Panda have actually kind of formed one of the stronger bot lane pairings in commercial, I would say. Not something I was expecting coming in. I mean, I know Maxim's a really good player, but I kind of synonymize them as a jungler, so to see them go to 80 carry and kind of pop off from like the Kai'Sa, the Jinx, it seems like everything's kind of clicking pretty well for this squad. They seem to get along really well. So it should be a tough matchup for the Pirates, which they haven't. I mean, again, they've had a super dominant season, so maybe it'll be a little bit of a wake up call tonight.
Absolutely, and the jungle matchup apparently sounds like one of those difficult ones. NX Angel sort of saying like, okay, we were the ones who were able to take a game off Pill County Pirates, and with the parenthetical that Delash on D was absent for that series, and just hasn't lost a game in the LBLCS yet. Um, I mean, that's fine. Like, I think losing games builds character, but like, you could also win. It's whatever. So we'll see what happens there. Vega, can you sort of summarize a little bit of this matchup here? What are you thinking about when you're looking at these two teams from sort of a more analytical coach perspective?
I think definitely coming into this, a lot of teams, you worry about like confidence and things like that coming into series. I don't think either of these teams are going to struggle with that. I think Pill County Pirates is going to feel great. They were pretty strong this year. Obviously, Rat Kingdom Lords on that side, it's a little bit harder whenever you're staring down an undefeated team that's pretty much dropped one game all season. It can be a little bit intimidating, but it's a best of three, and I do think pressure is the great equalizer, because you never know how someone's going to play on a certain day. When you're getting closer and closer to that finals, the more and more you kind of get into your own head about, hey, this one series is it. If we win this, we're in finals. And if you come out and get punched in the mouth in game one, drop a game one, it can do a lot for your, mental and things like that. But I think for this series, it is going to be a lot of who can, kind of put their will on the other team, right? Two distinct play styles. Which team is going to get off, be able to play their style, and force the other team to adapt to it, I think will have the advantage.
Yeah, we'll see which team's able to get off tonight at 8 p.m. And I think that it's going to be a very exciting matchup here. Well, we don't necessarily have the finals yet determined. Let's do some predictions for the series tonight between Pill County Pirates and Rat Kingdom Lords. Vega, I'll stay with you for now, and then I'll go to Valentine and then Last Force, and then we'll step on up to Financial. So Vega, what do you think is going to happen between these two teams?
I think it can be an interesting series, but I think Pill County Pirates takes this 2-0. They've looked dominant. I think they're a team that's very adaptable. I have not seen a team go against them yet where I really felt like they were pushed. And Rat Kingdom Lords are coming off a series that was kind of back and forth, showed a couple chinks in the armor, so I believe Pill County Pirates will press on that weak spot.
Alrighty, so some fire out the gate for the Pill County Pirates. Valentine, what you got for us? Do you agree or do you disagree?
I'm gonna go 2-1 PCP as well. The Pirates have looked really hard to stop. I think the Lords are also such a solid team, though, right? I think they've logged a lot of games together. They've kind of fought through the turmoil, and they've had close, solid series, right? Got past Dogstat Bark, OMLG, but I think one of the big things is that Amanda will be in the jungle, and that's not their normal setup. And I think it is definitely. We're kind of looking at a David versus Goliath thing against Lash on D, who is hunk of the season candidate. Definitely a scary person to look down in the jungle. So I'm going to go Pirates 2-1.
Alrighty. And Les Force, what do you think about this? Are you going to throw in the underdog vote for Rat Kingdom Lords, or are you going to close out our predictions unanimously for Pill County Pirates?
I'm going to go 2-0 Rat Lords. I'm going to...
Wow.
It's kind of like not a boy who cried wolf, right? But it's like, how many times do we have to question Amanda the Panda in the jungle, right? We've seen it time and time again. We've said there's no way this is going to work, and then lo and behold, plays up against someone on paper better, and they win. So it's like I've learned my lesson. I'm going to 2-0 Rat Lords.
Alrighty, absolutely. I love the fire. I love the spice. We'll see what ends up happening. That will be the first predictions that we get to see what actually happens. Alrighty, let's push on up into Financial here, where we have quite a bracket and quite a matchup. Valentine, tell us a little bit about your favorite team, Team Popo.
I love them. And you know what? I'm a single BO5 away from speaking French on the entirety of the postseason booth episode. And you know what? I'm happy about it. Popo is notoriously a team that is known for kind of shaking up the standings, or kind of shaking up the playoff bracket by beating a team they weren't supposed to beat. But it feels like this season they are hot. took care of business in round one, had the big win over Boom What Up, and then had another close series over the searing hot a fresh start. They've gotten to finals. You know, they were just under that threshold of 4 undefeated teams, and when 3 of those undefeated teams were gone by semifinals, Popo realized that this was another chance to kind of make their mark. And yeah, I think we're talking about a team that is honestly one of the best team fighting teams I think LBLCS Financial has seen in a very long time.
I agree.
You know,
For
say
sure.
what you
Yeah.
say what you will about their, you know, say what you will about their laning, say what you will about their you know, their early game. When they get into when you get into the mid to late game, they are on fire every time without fail, and that is why keep pulling wins out of their hat. Long Cannons has been elite. You know, obviously Financial had 2 ADCs that everybody was definitely kind of salivating at. And the fact that both of those guys were gone in round one, that both of those guys were gone in round one meant that Long Cannons was kind of the next up.
Yeah.
So I'm excited to see how this game goes. I'll be excited regardless of the outcome.
Yeah, and I mean your point about team fighting is super sort of on the nose there. Les Force, I wonder if you can talk a little bit about their team fighting and then sort of in their series against Fresh Start, how did that end up being the thing that really changed the tides in their favor?
Yeah, I mean, when it comes down to it, I mean, Popo, they've just played. I mean, they've played multiple LBLCS seasons. They have, I believe, made multiple finals. They've won once. I think on that day, like I was able to catch. I want to say it was games 2 and maybe a little bit of game 3 off the top of my head. They actually lost game 1, which a fresh start. Like what a like as a side tangent, like what a hell of a run for a
Yep.
fresh
Yeah.
start.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
TV, like we scrimmed them like really early in the season. It was one of our only only scrims the entire season, and hopefully it's okay that I like bring this up. But like after game 2, they were like, "Are you guys sure you want to do a game 3?" Like because like we were like winning super quick, and we're like, "Yeah, like let's keep playing, like run some different strats." And like they clearly leveled up as like the season went on. You know, huge ass 69. Seemed to have a even when they got the Talon, like is that like a Talon one trick, I believe. Like they popped up on the Talon, they played well when they didn't get it. Um, they played super well as a team, and so like shout out because they were the 16 seed, and to make the run to semifinals, like that's super impressive. But I think Popo is a really good. It's a really good matchup on either side for them and Buttermilk, which I'm sure we'll get into here. As they both play team fights super well.
Yeah, and you know they were like they made it to semis and were poised to make it all the way to finals right there, right? Like they took game 1 off of Team Popo. I remember watching, I think it was the Team Popo's top laner who was streaming and like listening to heavy metal the entire series, which I could appreciate. Um, if you haven't listened to Team Popo's comms, you should do it because it's almost all French except for occasionally there's like random like English phrases in there, and it is incredible to listen to, especially if you're a monoglot like me, who well actually I speak a little Spanish, mostly when I drink tequila, but that's really neither here nor there.
It's got to be cultural appropriation.
Wow, that's
Can't be.
Are you sure?
Can't be.
Gotta be some kind of.
It's whatever it is. It's something. It's
I'm
really
sure,
something.
man.
So we'll see what happens with that. Vega, how about you tell us a little bit about Buttermilk Lifestyle? This team is like your baby, and not even what was it last night, the night prior, where they almost gave you a heart attack. So tell us a little bit about this
Almost.
team, and their matchup and their series against Blue Lobster, if it's not too re-traumatizing for you.
No, I'm happy to go into, getting my doctor's appointment scheduled for this week, and everything like that. No, all the credit in the world to Blue Lobster. Beating a team twice in a season is a very hard thing to do, and I think a lot of that semis shows why. You don't learn a lot about a team when you beat them, but when someone beats you, you do get to learn a lot about how they play. And we played Blue Lobster in the regular season. It was a little bit back and forth. They have hands like crazy, and they came with a really good strategy in playoffs against us.
Mhm.
And all I can say is Quad Dual Blades, thank you, bless you, for putting us into the finals. I am so excited for the Long Cannons versus Quan Dual Blades matchup in finals. I think two people who were not talked about enough in the regular season, probably because there were some other
Mhm.
obviously deserving
Mhm.
AD carries who are doing very well, and to have the two kind of like, hey, we're the other AD carries, be the kind of stars going into finals is awesome. But yeah, it was a stressful series. It was back and forth. I do think uncharacteristically poor performances from some people on Buttermilk who are normally kind of the rocks of that team.
Mhm.
And it means a lot to have people step up who normally are, playing in those roles to kind of lift others up. And I think ultimately, hopefully that helps in a finals matchup because now, helps round your team out a little bit. But Popo's a scary,
Mhm.
scary team. They've got pedigree. They do not have a lot of weaknesses. They're a team that team fights very well in a meta where I believe things have slowed down a little bit and it is more around team fighting. So it will be a spicy matchup. I've got my work cut out for me for the next week.
Yeah, I'm frankly super excited to see that matchup play out. I won't lodge my own prediction here, but I do predict 5 games one way or the other. So it's going to be 3-2 in one direction. I believe, unless one team really shows up on the day, or one team really doesn't. So we'll see what happens. Uh, So that's sort of like our little primer for Team Popo and a little bit of a primer for Buttermilk Lifestyle. Les Force, can you sort of take us into a little bit of a summary here for these couple of teams? What is it that really makes these teams so special from your sort of neutral now stepping in as the tie-breaking vote-ish perspective?
So I have experience against both teams. I haven't played against Popo in a while, so it's kind of hard to speak specifically to them. I will say my thoughts on Buttermilk is that their strength comes in the early game. I think that because they scrim a ton, they practice, they have the coaching. Like I think their drafts and their like first 10 to 15 minutes really kind of set the pace for if they're gonna win or not. I do think Buttermilk is very beatable if you go into the mid game in a solid spot because I think that's where, and this is like no shade to the players on that team, but I think like even TV, like in our series against them and like a scrim that we played against them, like we found opportunities to come back or take the lead in those mid game spots. So I think for Popo, their goal needs to be to just keep things in a solid game state in that early stage. If that means, and it's kind of hard now with the new map. You can't really trade objectives like you used to be able to, but you know, don't go down 2,000 gold in the first 10 minutes. Like keep yourself in the game and you've got players with hands that can carry team fights. Set stuff up that's going to make it really easy for them to succeed. And I think they've got a solid shot. Will I predict them over Buttermilk? I guess we'll save that for the predictions.
Well, why
Oh,
don't
what a tease.
I know, right? Well, like always one for the instant gratification. What do you predict for these teams? I'll make you go first, even though we've got a hardcore Buttermilk and a hardcore Popo stand coming right after you.
I see. So I'm pretty much the tiebreaker right off the rip.
Oh yeah.
I will go. I'll be chalk in this one. I'll say it goes to 5, and I think I'll give it to Game 5 Buttermilk.
Okay, so you're predicting Buttermilk 3-2 over Team Popo.
Correct.
Val, hit back. What are we gonna do here? You are muted, I believe.
Yes, you are, which almost builds up the stress even more.
That's crazy business. Three. I'm going 3-2 Popo.
3-2 Popo.
If
Okay.
I think they won their first championship last spring in 4, I think. And they took KFC to 5. But if we're talking about this definitely feels like the most cohesive team they've played since KFC. Um, like Buttermilk is scary in that way, but I think they've only gotten better. And I think it's gonna go to 5. I think both ADCs are gonna shine like fucking diamonds. I'm very
Mm-hmm.
excited to see how that looks.
Yeah, absolutely. It's going to be a very exciting series. Vega, after a couple deep breaths, what do you predict for this series? How do you think it's going to go?
I inherently, as a person, for people who are into zodiac signs, I am a Leo rising. So if nothing else, I am confident.
And for the people who are into
Uh,
science and facts, what does that mean? Allegedly.
It means 3-0. It means 3-0 buttermilk.
3-0 buttermilk.
I am full on. I mean, I think that it's important for your coach to be a beacon of confidence for your team, and I believe they can do it. I think Popo is one of the best teams Financial has ever seen. I think that they are an extremely hard nut to crack, but I don't think anyone on that team matches Dabubu when he's on his best, and I'm confident about that. I'll say that as cleanly as I can. If we lose, it's the other 4. I'm just kidding. I'm kidding.
Oh my god.
If we lose, no, I'm kidding.
You have
he
a
did get
favorite
soul killed
child.
3 times a day. No. If we lose, it will be me not prepping them. I don't. I mean, if Popo wins, deservedly, it would not blow me away. Popo's a great team, but you got to be confident in your own voice.
Absolutely. I mean, I love the confidence. I think it's very exciting. I mean, I can't wait. I hope that they schedule that game a little early. Because if I'm not casting it, I would love to, be there for it and be there to watch it the whole time. And also, knowing that Vega is slowly sinking deeper and deeper into his chair, as his heart rate climbs.
Oh my God, game 2, our game 3 last week, dude. When the soul got taken, I was like, all right, it's been a fun season.
Yeah.
This is how it ends.
All right. Well, that sort of rounds us out for financial, and then now all we've got left is to talk about the finalized playoffs from executive and from CEO. The executive sheet hasn't been updated yet, so I put the numbers right there on our side. So just ignore the fact that it's a little sketchily done. I did my best. And sometimes your best isn't enough, and that's just the way that it goes. And it's fine. It doesn't mean you're a bad person or anything. I should move on. So in executive, Coffee House took. I think I put the numbers in the wrong order because it was Coffee House 3-1 over Omega. Oopsies.
Yes, it was.
Yeah, I can read. I actually was there
Beautiful.
for that. I even freaking casted that thing. Hang on a second.
You casted this series.
While I fixed that, I knew that too. I just it's
well,
okay,
that's
better.
That's sleepy delirium.
That's sleepy delirium.
That's why I fixed it on the sheet so you could swap out the screenshot.
Well,
I think
it
this
was
is
too
better
late.
this way.
It was too late. It was too late, and it would have been a little too high budget to have everything go well. Whoopsie daisy. Maybe I'm just disclosing my crush on Concrete at this point. Valentine, take us through this match. Take us through this series. Take us through these teams. What are the first things that you look at when you think about Omega Gaming and Coffee House and the series that they played?
Honestly, maybe you could do that better than I could, Jack. You cast it.
I don't remember.
Oh well,
I have one thing to say.
Say your thing.
Okay, go ahead.
Blue card hype on 200 ping is still too good at the game. Having lag issues throughout the series, that guy's so sick. I mean, obviously,
crazy, yeah.
Popoba had a crazy series, but that is just for me, the story of the series is it doesn't matter. He's just too good.
And I want to say that the ping also made it so that in comms his voice was coming through like he was on helium, which I don't know that I could do that as somebody who's if I was on his team, not if I was the one whose voice sounded like helium. If my voice sounds like helium, that's fine. If I'm listening to somebody call out team fights and it's what do we want to hear, I couldn't do it.
There's no way I could lock in. There's no way I
There's
could lock
no
in.
way that I could lock in, but credit to Coffee House where credit is due. They indeed locked in, and they were able to take the 3-1 over Omega Gaming. As I'm thinking about these two teams, I'm thinking about that, like, I sort of equate Omega Gaming and Team Popo a little bit, in the sense that they're both very good, very coordinated, sort of team fight heavy teams. What did Coffee House do in order to disrupt that and then take the series over Omega?
I'll say Coffee House is extremely punishing for positional errors. So in those in between times, in between where you're trying to get those team fights set up, where you're contesting vision and stuff like that, Coffee House is very good of if you have a lazy rotation, if you are contesting vision without your team behind you, things like that, they are zero hesitation to punish, and they are on the same page about how they want to play the game out. So they do an extremely good job of knowing if you're a team that's known to team fight and things like that, they will punish that extremely hard. They will say, okay, we're going to drag the game into these 2v2, 3v3 scraps around the map. And then when you want to get into these team fight stages, you're going to have to opt into it in a 4v5, right? You're going to have to opt into it, not in the way you want to set this up. We're not going to let you get your tempo and get to your spot like you want to. Coffee House is one of the best at, and this is kind of a hard thing to put into words, but if you showed each player a play like leading up to something and asked them what's the right play next, all 5 players would probably answer the same thing. They're just locked in on that. It's almost like an inherent communication to where, like, when they see someone out of position, they're on it as 5. They don't have to call something or talk about the play coming out. If you watch any of their stream stuff like that, they're very good at punishing like that.
And it's that, like, unspoken sort of instant, I'd say, like, telepathic communication regardless of ping, that it's like they're like predator animals. Like if you make a misstep, you're gonna get pounced on, and those are scary teams to go against when you're somebody like me who really just like I basically, like, I put up 5 deaths a game getting caught out warding consistently every game. It doesn't matter who I'm playing, it doesn't matter if we're winning or we're losing. I'm going to overextend for a ward, and I'm going to say in comms, okay, I think I die for this ward here, and then I die for the ward there, and I'm like, ah, damn, never saw it coming. So it happens. Les Force, what can you tell us a little bit about these teams or this series? And did it go the way that you expected it to go?
I think the thing that stands out the most to me, looking at these, looking at the results and like more so on like the champion selection prio, is look at this Braum and how massive like this pick in particular is into everything that Omega wanted to do. Game 1 they picked Leona into Braum, really tough matchup. Game 2 Conquerors on Nautilus, again super hard matchup for Braum. Game 3 they banned the Braum, and so Triple Net falls back onto Soraka. Again, very, very annoying champion to punish. And then game 4 into a Seraphine right back on the Braum. It looks like, because I didn't get to catch much of the series when it was casted because it was on a Thursday and I've got league games on Thursdays. I believe it was on a Thursday.
It was.
But it just looks like the comps that Coffee House ran were just designed to make life super hard to like get in on these carries in the back line. The Sivir, the Jinx, the Ashe. And I think Braum in particular is just actually such a good pick to make that happen. Has like quiet good engage, but is really just like super good at stopping these engaged supports or these engaged junglers from kind of getting in on your backline. So that's the thing that stands out to me the most, kind of looking at this, and that kind of let Popova, Blue Card Hype, and Piggy AI to like go in on the rest of the team.
Absolutely, and I mean, Braum, I'm a Braum fan myself. I think it's just such a good pocket pick. Like Braum and Renata in competitive 5s environments are just so good at handling these teams that like to jump in and like do the team fight wombo combo thing. And that's honestly what Omega Gaming likes to do. They're very coordinated in that way. They like to make that happen. They're very good at making that happen. And so being able to have a pick like Braum or have other of those disengage picks, even things like the Soraka, really make it very difficult for those teams to jump in and to make their win condition come true. So that I think is a good sort of lesson to learn. So if you're a support player or something like that, pick up the Braum. It's just such a good thing to do. There was like a full LBLCS season where I had a sticky note on the bottom of my monitor, like on the bottom bezel, that just said "Don't forget Braum," and it would win me games. Not the games that mattered, but it would win me games. Valentine, from a sort of more historian, sort of narrative based approach, what does this win for Coffee House mean to you?
It's a big one. It's obviously Coffee House's first time in the finals in a decent bit, if I remember correctly.
Hmm.
Obviously, I think this is their deepest playoff run in a while as well. But what it is that it's it feels like a full circle, right, against a former very good financial team. Um, they kind of have a big executive win. They've been competing in executive for many a season now. I think every season since barring the last one,
Hmm.
every season since season 7,
Hmm.
they've been competing in executive. So to get that title, I definitely think feels like a way off the shoulder. They did it, new top laner, Piggy AI. Um, they came and put together something really good, and I think I feel like it's definitely a weight off of their shoulders to finally get this title, um, and kind of claim this one and be able to say this was ours, et cetera, et cetera.
Yeah, absolutely. Coffee House, sort of. I think when they came in their first season, they were able to pull out that win in the OG Financial, and then being able to pick up another win here. Um, that's two more wins than I have. So I got to give some credit where credit is due there. And just a bit of a delayed congratulations to Coffee House for winning the season 14 Executive League for the low budget LCS. Speaking of winners for the season 14 LBLCS, we have CEO, where Akuma Strikers were able to take the series win over the Rat Kingdom Emperors. We'll start with a little bit of a homage to no, that's not the right word. An ode to the Rat Kingdom Emperors. Les Force, what can you tell us about this team that fought valiantly until the end?
I mean, obviously, I'm good friends with several members of the Emperors, Duolingo Owl, Memer Sticks. I gotta give credit. They went up against the team that many thought were just going to run away with CEO in lane 0, and they took him in 3. And not even just took him in 3. They smashed game 3 in, I believe, like 18 minutes. Something.
17.
It was a 17.
Yeah.
Yeah, they defeated the biggest the biggest favorites. They came in finals, and it didn't go the way they were expecting, but I know that they had a lot of fun playing together. I know they enjoyed their time in CEO, and I know they got some big plans coming up soon. Not to leak those, but really successful season, even if the finals didn't quite go the way they were hoping.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely able to make stuff happen. CEO being one of the leagues where the new pot system sort of makes things a little bit tricky, and it's always hard to form equal teams here. But the Rat Kingdom Emperors, like you said, be able to take the series over lane 0, and really punch above their weight class there, and then sort of fight valiantly versus Akuma Strikers. Vega, what can you tell us about the winners for the season 14 CEO League in the low budget LCS?
First, shout out to Kuma for winning. Obviously, flowers where flowers are due. They were a team. We talked about beginning of the season when we circled teams who we thought could be really good. They were a team, and they kind of ran that gauntlet all year. You know what I mean? One of the teams that stayed around the top. I think once playoffs started, it feels like they just kicked it into another gear.
Mm.
Even teams that had looked close against them in the regular season, they looked to be completely within their own identity, playing their own game most series they played. Even in the finals, I don't know if there was a bead of sweat from them, unfortunately, but yeah, shout out Akuma. I just from beginning to end, a very complete
Mm-hmm.
season, well deserved win.
Absolutely, they were able to take the season fairly decisively. So good for them. Uh, Valentine, what do you have for us about this matchup here?
Yeah, I mean, I guess it's a series with Zodiac, and one of the big things it felt like was super clear was just, a lot of the season it had been X Fluke and Chief had kind of turned um a lot of enemy bot lanes into their playground, right, and had taken over games that way. But the series was kind of a shift from that. We saw a lot of Fireflans and Fireflans, Cherry, and wow, their mid laner's name is leaving me.
It's something.
It is Presidium.
Mhm.
And that and they put together what I thought was a very, very impressive season, all throughout. And that series was really based more so in the top side than the bot side, right? Not duo, Memer Sticks and was it Toad is the ADC or
Master,
Master?
I think.
Master's the ADC. Um,
Mhm.
Master and Memer Sticks both really held their own in what was definitely a competitive bot lane, but it felt like their top side really ran away with it in a lot of these games. Cherry especially
Mhm.
went off in all three games. Presidium holding his own against Toad was also a big thing because Toad had a couple pop off games as well. It just felt like Akuma was firing on all cylinders, and even in game 5, when Memer Sticks whipped out the faded supportal sticks, um, bot lane stayed under control, and Akuma kind of cruised into that game 3 win,
Mhm.
was able to take it away despite definitely some hiccups, and
Mhm.
they were able to go wild and kind of claim a championship they've been striding towards since the start of the season.
Absolutely, one of the few places where our predictions come true from the start of the season.
Mhm.
So we've got a lot of excitement left to go. Only 2 of the 5 leagues for our season 14 have actually closed out. We've still got, let's see here, including the matchup tonight, we've actually got 4 more matches left to play. So we've got the matchup tonight and then the 3 finals remaining from economy, commercial, and financial. So just as a reminder, in economy, Lust Force and Vega are predicting Milk with Valentine playing spoiler, predicting wavies. In commercial, both Vega and Valentine are aligned with the Pill County Pirates, and Lust Force has decided to play spoiler, predicting the Rat Kingdom Lords to take that series. That happens tonight, so stay tuned. And then in financial, Lust Force and Vega aligning with the Dairy Isle there, and Valentine playing spoiler for their very favorite Team Popo. I don't know how to say favorite in French, otherwise I would have said that. But I don't
I don't
I
know.
don't really speak
I'm gonna have
French.
to learn.
I used a little Google Translate when I was watching the show, so I think it's le balayage inversé is like the reverse sweep or something like that. But I probably really messed that one up. I'm certain I'll be corrected. That's our show for today. Thank you guys so much for joining in on this fine Sunday afternoon. We look to be back next week for next Sunday to get that in, and that will probably be our penultimate episode for this season. We are really looking forward to it. Make sure to get those orders in, and don't forget to tip your server. Lust Force, is there anything you would like to say before we close out?
No, good luck to those teams in semifinals tonight. Hopefully, should be a good one.
Absolutely. Valentine, anything you would like to say before we close out?
I'm excited to see some good League of Legends to finish out the season.
I think it's going to be a good matchup. Vega, how about you? Final words to the
Yeah,
viewers.
just echoing that. Excited for all the matches that are remaining. Should be a lot of fun.
And we get to see that action coming up tonight at 8 o'clock. Stay tuned. It might end up being streamed. It might not. We shall see. So look forward to that, and we look forward to seeing you guys same place, same booth next week. Take care for now.